What's going on YouTube? Welcome to a video about my first impressions of Grand Theft Auto 5. I was originally going to wait for the PC version, but I let the hype get to me. This is by far the most hyped game of the year. Comparing the hype of GTA 5 to the hype surrounding The Last of Us is like comparing the World Cup to a high school football game. This was my first time playing console since beating The Last of Us for the second time. In this video, I'm going to talk about how the game plays, how the game performs, which is more relevant to PC gamers, and my personal experience as well as tips on how to get the most out of the game. Let's do this. For missions, events, and activities, you can do everything promised and then some. Basically, anything you can imagine doing as a violent criminal on the West Coast, you can try here. I can spend the rest of the video listing things to do, and it still wouldn't scratch the surface of the scale of the game. The game's pacing is excellent. Newcomers to the series can learn quickly but aren't going to be overwhelmed, and veterans won't be bored out of their mind. The whole map is open to you from the start. The developers have said the game world is larger than any Rockstar game before, including GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption. I haven't felt that way yet. I've been to all the corners of the map, but I'm not far enough in the game to have the land within the borders colored in yet, so to say, so my perception of the world size may change. The most fun I've had exploring so far is not in the city, but in the desert and wilderness. When I drove the ATV off-road as Trevor through the desert, I heard coyotes, and it felt like I jumped games into Red Dead Redemption. The sights and sounds were so familiar to Red Dead. Flying with the plane over the wilderness is very relaxing as well. The story is definitely worth paying attention to, and it's with some of the best writing in all of gaming. There are references to everything going on in the real world, be it pop culture, politics, or world events. The satire is always hilarious. The most impressive part of the game so far is how the developers are able to convey the feel, and I use the word feel in quotation marks, of the West Coast through a video game. The feel of the world is very distinct from New York, the city that Liberty City and GTA 4 was based off of. Los Santos and Vinewood have a very Southern California vibe. I was very skeptical about how switching characters would work in terms of story and gameplay. It's not fluid, but it's effective. The driving physics take some getting used to. It's different from Grand Theft Auto 4. Some aspects of the car handling is more realistic and some is more arcade style. The characters all wear seatbelts now. Niko Bellic used to fly out the front windshield if you crashed at full speed. That doesn't happen anymore. The cars have more inertia. When I say inertia, think about Newton's first law of motion, where objects in motion tend to stay in motion. The collisions have more weight and feel harder. The cars have responsive turning. You can turn on a dime at low to medium speeds, which makes for some very showy maneuvers. High speed handling still requires a lot of turn skill. One quirk that I feel about physics is that the cars are very floaty. You have more inertia on the ground, but you seem to be less affected by gravity. This makes for showy jumps. It's fun, but quirky. On foot, there are tighter combat mechanics, there's better gunplay, and a more responsive cover system. Granted, the cover system is not going to be like Gears of Wars or Max Payne 3's, which was another Rockstar game, and it gets my vote for best gunplay in a third-person shooter. It's to be expected because with a game as diverse as Grand Theft Auto 5, you can't expect to match the best games mechanic for mechanic. Sprinting on foot is still awkward. Jumping and navigating terrain is also awkward. One time I tried to jump over a 2-foot wall, I hit the wall and I fell and lay down for a few seconds. It's an interesting portrayal of character physics, but it makes for some very annoying gameplay moments. Sliding over the hood of cars and vaulting are also not as seamless. That's all I have to say about pure gameplay. Now let's get into performance. A lot of this is going to be from a PC gamer's perspective. It might sound harsh to console players, but I'm just being a realist, not a pessimist. This game has an insufferably low frame rate. When you round the corner into a busy intersection or you go full speed down Vinewood Boulevard, you can almost distinguish the individual frames. The game feels like watching a PowerPoint with frames per second as low as 20 during intense sequences. Not only does it not play well, it gives me a headache after a long period, say 2 hours or so of driving gameplay. I think part of the reason why I like the sections in the desert so much is because of the higher frame rates due to lower world density. I don't think the issue is with me being a PC gamer and being used to higher frame rates. I can adjust to lower frames per second. I played The Last of Us and it played fine with 30 frames per second because it was a slow stealth game. For the type of game that GTA is, you need a smoother frame rate so you're actually fighting the enemies instead of fighting the hardware. How the game looks visually, I don't really need to say anything other than it's what you expect from your typical console game. The screenshots and trailers look good because everything is pre-rendered. PlayStation 3 has a slight advantage in performance because Xbox has a texture streaming bottleneck when reading from the hard drive, but the ground texture difference is only really noticeable if you are looking specifically for it. On PC, I play with, at all times, at least 2 times sampling of anti-aliasing, and when I look at the edges of geometry in Grand Theft Auto 5, all I see are pixels and blockiness. As a PC gamer using a SATA 3 SSD, load times are horrible. Even opening up the map takes a few seconds. It's not that bad the first time, but doing that over the course of a game a few hundred times will drive you crazy. Switching characters across the map predictably takes a while. I could go on about performance, but it'll just turn into a console versus PC rant. The final topic of today's video is going to be on my personal experience with the game so far and tips for you to get the most out of this game. Keep in mind though that everything I say for the next few minutes is very subjective. I'm not speaking in absolutes. This is just relative to my perspective as a gamer. I may have done myself a disservice because I played a lot of Sleeping Dogs and GTA 4 leading up to GTA 5's release because I wasn't originally planning to get GTA 5 and I needed an open world driving game fix. To be honest, I was a little burned out with driving missions, which are most of what GTA 5's main missions are. There's no getting around that. From a gamer who's seen almost everything modern games have to offer, the gameplay of GTA 5 isn't very new, fun, or interesting. Another mistake I made when playing this game is that I spent most of my time playing story missions straight away. The mission context may be different, but again, I've been playing a lot of Sleeping Dogs in GTA 4, so all of the missions feel tedious in some way. I think there is a little bit of fluff and padding in the mission design as well. Some early missions require long bike rides or jogs, and the car rides seem to be a little bit longer. Of course, through the car rides, you get some expose into the stories where the characters talk to you, but even compared to GTA 4, the car rides do seem longer. I am very interested in the story and I want to see what happens next, but the missions feel like a grind. Doing missions to get the story feels like having to eat vegetables before dessert. But the beauty of Grand Theft Auto 5 is that there is something in this game for everyone. The story is only one part of the game. The game isn't going to stand out if you break it down into individual components, but when seen as a whole, the game can be phenomenal. Personally, I've had the most fun wandering off the beaten path. I started enjoying the game a lot more when I stopped going directly from mission to mission. My best advice on how to get the most out of this game is to take your time through it. Do side missions, play mini games, upgrade your character's stats, buy weapon upgrades, buy car upgrades, do plane deliveries, invest in the stock market, and buy properties. One of the criticisms of Grand Theft Auto 4, and I think it was a fair criticism, was that there was not much to do when all you wanted to do was mess around. Herpaderping was not as fun as in previous Grand Theft Autos. And Grand Theft Auto 5 not only is messing around fun, but it can be productive. Any herpaderping is organized herpaderping. It contributes to better character stats. Everything you do in the game makes you feel you are having an impact on the lives of the people around you. No other Grand Theft Auto has made you feel more a part of the world instead of apart from the world. All in all, I am enjoying playing Grand Theft Auto 5, but it's not captivating enough of a game that it pulls me away from other games. Usually when a game has a good story, I power game to finish it within a few play sessions. I don't get that feeling from Grand Theft Auto 5, and I probably couldn't do that even if I wanted to because the story is rather long. For me, The Last of Us was a system seller game, meaning that I bought the PS3 just to play it. I don't feel Grand Theft Auto 5 is a system seller. If you don't have an Xbox 360 or a PS3, the game is not so good that you should feel the need to get a console just to play it. The single player of Grand Theft Auto 5 is not a revolution in open world gaming, it is more of a culmination of everything good about open world games so far. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like on this video if I was informative. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. My name is David and I'll see you next video.